Hello. Um, Talk about how to disrupt poor business performance. And when I talk about that, what I'm going to be talking about is, as a leader, everything starts and finishes with the leader. I love the proverb, a fish rots from the head. So if leadership is weak, then the business will be weak. There's no two ways about it. I mean, we can make all kinds of excuses and say that this condition, that condition, and so on. But really, what's happening is um, we're, as leaders, letting our rational mind dominate our thinking process about a business. So let's talk about um, disrupting poor business performance. Every business has a culture, and if you think about it, what is culture? Culture is group paradigm. It's group habit. It is a process that the people move into every day on a habitual basis. And a lot of training there's a lot of investment in training in businesses to improve performance. Um, but the challenge with that, if you're honest with yourself, how much success is there? Well, there won't be any success, really tangible success in moving, so let's say, um, poor performing and medium performing salespeople to the level of the high performing, and then people will rationalize that and basically tell themselves rational lies that it's their character, blah blah blah. The real reason is that a business has a culture, it's a paradigm, but every individual in that business operates, goes to work every day operating on their paradigm. That is their habits of thought, their routines, their belief system, their self image, how they see themselves in that organization, how they see themselves in the world. So, the end of the day, there's only one thing that has to change. If you learn as a leader how to effectively shift a person's paradigm, how to get them to change their belief system about who they think they are, their concept of themselves, and how they fit within the organization, how they fit within the world, then you become unstoppable. Because then, if you can do it for an individual, then you can do it for a group, because it's the same thing. A culture is just a group paradigm. It's a group of habits, routines, and customs, and so on within an organization. If you want to change the culture of an organization, you've got to change the paradigm. And how can you do that? Well, there's two main ways that there are other ways, but there's two main ways. One is a emotional impact. When someone gets fired, generally there's a bit of a shakeup. The other way is, and that, so the emotional impact is generally negative, and so there's no point. I mean, you can't really control it, and it's not how you would like to shift the paradigm within an individual or within a culture. The other way is constant spaced repetition of new ideas over time with the correct leadership or mentorship within an organization. So what I want to do here is, this is going to be a short video because I just want to get one point across, that there is basically a superpower that every individual has, every leader has it, but often in an organization it's suppressed because most organizations are governed by very clever, well-learned, rational thinking people. They can prove through Excel spreadsheets, budgets, and all manner of clever argument how growth can move 10% and so on. So that's rational thinking. But if the business is in a slump, or if your business is in an industry that's changing very quickly, then the creative mind, the person who can imagine what is possible, needs to be understood and needs actually to be nurtured within an organization. If the rational mind dominates, we need both. You need the creative mind, you need the rational mind to actually run the cash flow. You need the rational mind to do the budget, to do the risk analysis. You need that person. But if they're leading the business, then the business, if in particular in a very volatile market within a industry that is experiencing transformation, disruption within the industry, they're going to get left behind because they're risk adverse. They are not creative. They're not letting themselves, because everyone's creative, but they don't let themselves because that has been conditioned out of them, that superpower. Their superpower is the rational mind. So I'll just share my screen here and we'll go through this very quickly. So this is what I call the blue sky quadrant. So blue sky. And what is blue sky in business? Basically, it's taking the lid off our conditioning, our thinking. And I've got 4 quadrants here. So this is the past, and this is all the good things that as a leader you've done or as a business you've done, and you remember that. But you can't, and this is you in the middle here, okay? So this is your mind, and this is your conscious mind, your subconscious mind. So if we just imagine this is you today as the leader of a business, and your mind is at the head, and it's not as it is because your mind is everywhere. But let's say for this purpose that this is your body, and in your conscious mind, you have information coming in through your senses all the time. Now, if you think about that, how many bits, million bits of data are coming into our conscious mind through what we see, what we hear, taste, touch, and what we can smell? It's enormous. So our reasoning factor has kicked in and said, well, we'll only accept this amount and we'll only allow this amount of data to come into our mind at any given moment. So that's conditioning. But also, so that's when you are letting the world outside of you enter into your mind. But also in your conscious mind, you've got 6 intellectual factors. So you've got imagination, which is your superpower. You've got intuition. You've got perception. You've got memory. You've got reason, and then the ability to enable you to focus on an image a vision that you create in your mind is the will. Okay, so let's say that as a leader, you can only think one thought at a time. So let's say that you have imagined a wonderful idea that, and this idea you probably have already. You can sense it, you can feel it. It actually keeps you awake at night of how you could change your business. It is an impossible goal because you don't know how to get there, and that's your rational mind saying, well, you don't have proof to get there, therefore you suppress it, ignore it, don't entertain the idea because you don't know how to get there. And of course you don't know how to get there because you haven't gone there before. That's the challenge that most businesses have. Most individuals have it because at a point in time, we generally stop really stretching and learning new things. So we kind of just live within what we come to understand, and that is basically our comfort zone or the limits of our belief of what's possible for us right now. Okay, so let's say that represents that. So let's go back to this whole idea. Your mind, you've got a conscious mind, and that's your rational mind, and you've got a subconscious mind, which is where your paradigm resides, and that's your habits, your routines, you, what you believe possible for yourself, your self-image, how you see yourself in the world, and it's the concept you hold of who you are. It's all, you're not consciously thinking about this, but you're acting into it every day. And this is what we call your emotional mind. So let's say that habitually every day, you accepted certain ideas, you thought about them over and over. I'll change the color. And you thought about these ideas over and over, and eventually they became fixed ideas. They became a habit in your subconscious, and that causes your body to act in a certain way, which gives you your behavior, and that'll give you your results over and over. So now we go back to the whole idea. So that's how we kind of operate on a daily basis. And if you can see, a lot of training focuses on trying to change behavior, and that works. Like motivation, you get people all revved up, and then that might happen on a Saturday and Sunday. They go to some motivational speaker. Monday morning comes and they fired up. They're going to change the direction of their life. Tuesday happens. It's not as much power as they remember Monday to be. And then Wednesday, the wheels fall off and they go back to operating from their paradigm, their habitual way of thinking. So if you want to change your thinking, then you need to start understanding or get a reasonable or respectable understanding of how the mind works. This stick figure here, Bob Proctor used it for 60 years, help just give a bit of order to the mind so that you can start to recognize what the challenges that you're dealing with. So let's go back to this idea. If this is the quadrant 1 in this blue sky quadrant, and quadrant 1 is the good past, but it is the past, okay? You can learn from it. And if you are harping on about it and your conscious attention there and you're emotionally involved in old ideas, then you can only think one thought at a time. You're not consciously focused or emotionally engaged on your future. Equally, quadrant 2 here is all the bad things that happen in the past. There would be trauma. Everyone's had trauma. Businesses have trauma. There will be areas where the business failed, and as an individual failed. And so you could be emotionally involved in this area and thinking about it. And again, if you're kind of down in this part of the world, in your mind, you're not spending a respectable amount of time considering options for the future. So let's say that you are able to say, okay, the past is the past. I can't do anything. I can harvest the good and then move on. All right. So now we're left with the future. So if we go to quadrant 3 here, excuse me, if we go to quadrant 3, this is what is. This is what's happening right now. This is the world around us. This is what we're experiencing, the problems, and I call it the drama, because we tend to default to the drama of life, and then we talk about the bad things that are happening in the world, the state of the economy, and so on and so on. So we're actively involved here. So how does this relate to disrupt your poor business performance? Well, if you're stuck down here, this is where your rational mind is looking at things and saying, well, this is the problem. And if I do this Excel spreadsheet, and if I move this, and if I, have this amount, borrow this amount of money, I will be able to achieve this outcome. That's what the rational mind is trying to do to work out all the problems that is down here. Then in life, either peers, opposition companies, some of them are nimble. and they they recognize all this down here, but they understand that the true growth of an individual or of a business actually happens up here in quadrant 4. And this is what's possible. What's possible? This is your imagination. This is about creating completely new ideas to solve problems that are recurring down in the physical world that you're dealing with. It might be complete transformation of an individual's performance or a business performance by setting a North Star here, a goal of something that is really important to the leader or a creative person within the business that's identified that if they change the way that they're doing something and move in a different direction, that it will have enormous impact for good in the organization or in an individual's life. So this is where it actually gets a bit difficult, because the vision held for the future requires an enormous amount of effort to sell to people that are rational thinking people, because they want the proof, they want the facts. And how really are you going to prove or have the facts of something that has never been created before? Well, it's not possible. So what you can do is, if the person spends who has got the idea, or the group of people that have got the idea up here, a goal, and it might be a financial goal, it might be a goal to transform the performance of a department, it might be a goal of transforming the culture in a certain way. That might be the goal. Then what happens is you start to get, when people start to believe that this is possible, and not every rational person is going to believe it. So then don't include them in the ideas here, because what you want to do is you want to free your mind, let the rational person carry on doing what they do, and then the person who's able to create a vision for what's possible, then they start to think about these ideas and create new ideas. They change the color again. Create new ideas, all right? They start to imagine what paradigm you're going to start to operate from here. What are the rules that you're going to implement, the new standard of operating, so that you can move the business or your individual self from the paradigm that you're operating now to a new paradigm up here that has boundaries. It's got standards. We start to operate from this place going forward, and we lift the performance of the business. This is how you can disrupt the business performance. It's really simple, but it's not easy, because remember, you've got, if it's a business, you've got a group of people that have got fixed ideas set in their subconscious mind. They've got habitual behavior. To shift that takes time. It is a constant spaced repetition. And the individuals I work with, that I mentor, it'll take a minimum of 6 months to shift self-image, for instance, to shift poor performing habits. It takes 6 months. And once people, well, the people that get it straight away, there's an immediate shift. But then the process of shifting the paradigm is where permanent change happens, because if you change people's habitual behavior, their routines, and what they believe is possible for themselves, then you can't go backwards. Now you've got a new level of awareness, which is now up in this area. And once you get up here, people forget about this area down here. And now they're starting to operate from here. And then you've got to start again. That's how growth happens. It's a constant spaced repetition of new ideas over time with the right mentorship, with the right leadership. And it all starts with the leader. And I hope that helps. If you've got questions about how to shift paradigms, please feel free to contact me. My email and my details are on everywhere on these platforms. And yeah, see if I can turn this off now. No. Now I can turn it off.